Hi friends, Robin here. So you may have noticed that we are on a little hiatus between seasons 3 and seasons 4. Don't worry though, we are not leaving you. While you wait, we're revisiting some episodes from our previous 3 seasons. And we also have Where Are They Now videos on our social media channels that you can check out. So make sure you are following at RealRobHops and at editodd.io over on the Instagram. Now, sit back and relax and listen to, well, I'd say one of our favorite episodes, but that's just not true because we love all our guests. So sit back and enjoy an episode that deserves an encore. Oh, and we will be back with new episodes on Tuesday, March 19th. Mark your calendars or, hey, just follow us on the socials so you don't miss a minute of well adjusting. Woo!
Edit audio.
Early in my acting career, I am not going to lie, I was thirsty and I was hustling because my credits were lacking, my on-set experience was lacking, and at that time, I was willing to take whatever job came my way. Yes, I'll be an extra. Yes, I'll take no pay because I needed to get some experience. I needed to get them to see me. So cut to a no-pay extra job, background work, in the heat of summer. I'm talking sun bouncing off the tar on the Lower East Side of New York City. And there was promises of exposure, like, maybe you'll get a line and you'll definitely be featured in the shot. That means you could get a union card. So at 6 a.m., I sat in the makeup chair, not because I asked for hair and makeup, but because they told me to go get made up. 2 minutes into my session, an assistant something or other walks in and he's holding a walkie-talkie and he says, "What are you doing? She's an extra. Get her out of this chair." Ugh. So I slink back to the tent on the street. I'm embarrassed. I'm degraded. And now I am continuing to sweat. Well, shortly thereafter, we shoot a scene and then we cut for lunch. And all of us extras were waiting for our turn to get food because first the crew, then the talent. But you're not talent if you're an extra. After all those people are done, well, then you can eat. 10 minutes later, Mr. Walkie-Talkie enters the sweaty tent and says, "Oh, hey, we're all out of food, so, you have an hour. You can go get lunch." No apologies, no food voucher, just to be back in an hour so we can place you in the background like the set dressing that we view you as. And that day, I left that set in an absolute rage. That was my breaking point. So I declared silently, because it was before social media, that I would never be an extra again. More importantly, I would never allow myself to be treated this way on the set again. Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, standing up for yourself at work when you are being undervalued. Ooh, have we got an exciting episode for you today. Today, we talked to Deb. They are a Brooklyn-based illustrator who went viral on Twitter for calling out a major media company worth, are you ready? $6 billion because the company wanted to significantly underpay Deb for their work. Now, when I first heard this topic, I have to admit, I had some immediate thoughts on what I felt is right and wrong about sharing on social and employers and getting blackballed because of said posts. But this topic, it turned out to be very complicated, very nuanced, and absolutely a blast to pick apart. So let's get right to Deb because this talk is too good to wait.
Hi, I'm Deb. I use they, them pronouns, and I am a Korean American illustrator based in Brooklyn, New York. I also have a graphic novel coming out, which is very exciting. Yeah, it's called In Limbo. It's publishing from First Second Books, which is under Macmillan, and it is a memoir about being Asian and very depressed in a pretty broken household. So it's very dark.
Oh, that's amazing. It's not
Thank
amazing
you.
that your childhood was dark, but it's amazing that you were able to make art out of it. I'm always for that.
Less dark that I can capitalize on my trauma.
Yes. Let's talk about the question that you came in with that you wanted to talk about.
It was something along the lines of, how do you call out other parties for the sake of making your industry a better place without the potential of being blacklisted?
Right.
You know?
Can you give people some backstory about how this question comes to you and why it's on the forefront of your mind right now?
Oh boy. So in November, like beginning of November, I got an inquiry through my agent. He was like, hey, you got something from Fortnite the game.
Yeah.
Who they're looking for an illustration. It would be for a loading screen. So most of their players would see it. They would want all copyright to it for $3,000. And I'm imagining like, okay, if Fortnite wants an illustration, that has to be like in the 5 figures because my agent takes 30%.
Sure. Ouch.
Yeah. So they came back and they said, yeah, $3,000 is what we normally pay. And I'm just sitting here like, really? 3,000? Like, honey, I get paid more doing book covers with struggling with like publishing houses that, you know, like arguably do not make as much money as Fortnite.
Yeah.
And they don't even own the image at that point. It's still mine. So my agent and I are like kind of like, I can tell he's like kind of laughing a little nervously. Like I'm laughing nervously. And we're like, all right, well, $3,000, if that is your maximum budget, would be only okay if I get to have all copyright to the illustration, meaning that they would only be able to use the illustration in that scenario as a loading screen.
So it can't be in commercials. It can't be elsewhere.
No.
And then they have to renegotiate with you.
They would have to renegotiate with me. I would be like, I'm allowed to sell prints. I'm allowed to like use the illustration for other clients. And you can use this illustration for 1 year. I think that is very reasonable.
And did you say, or you can do a buyout, but you're going to have to really increase the amount because I'm losing revenue? Yeah.
Yeah. We put all those options out there. And they said, we don't have enough manpower in our legal team to renegotiate every contract because we like ask for like 50 to 75 loading screens a year. And our lawyers do not have enough manpower to change every single one of them. And
that's, by the way, that's the most like if you want to come back and say this is our budget, that's one thing. But to say we don't have manpower to like to do some revisions on a contract, that's absurd. Every contract gets redlined. That's absurd.
Do you know how much legal action is taken against Fortnite all the time?
Maybe that's why they're so busy.
Yeah, right? Yeah, like, sorry, you're exploiting children. That is why they don't have enough manpower.
Tell it to my son. I'm like, stop buying skins.
Yeah, so we're like, this is ridiculous. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do it.
Which I feel very strongly at this point in the story. Good for you. Because that's a knowing your worth conversation. You're already established. You have an agent. You have work coming in. So you don't need to. I mean, I think sometimes starting out you have to, but in this case you didn't have to.
Exactly. And I already have a lot. I already had a lot on my plate. And so I did feel after like a day, I felt better that Fortnite will not do much for me. I am in the position where I am privileged to turn down a place like Fortnite. I would say if this were like 3 years ago, I would have still taken it because I had less work at that point. So I think I was okay turning it down. And then my friend posted a page from the Graphic Artists Guild for Ethical Guidelines or something. And it was from 2001. That edition was from 2001. And then they said, in 1935, an advertising job for an illustrator would pay $2,000 USD.
For the year? Or
for that
a single
project.
thing. Oh, in 19 when?
35.
Whoa.
Right? We are still getting paid. Like, a lot of places are still asking for that much for a job.
And do you think that's because of the introduction of computers and, graphics programs and stuff like that? You just think it's just the industry?
I think the use of digital mediums, I don't think has anything to do with it, because it's still a way to make images. Like, you're still putting the same amount of work into images. Right. Like, the way I would paint on Canvas, not that I do that anymore, is the same exact way that I would paint on Photoshop or Procreate. So it's not that. It's actually maybe like computers does have something to do with it, because now people are taking for granted. Like, a lot of people say, "Oh, you had a computer do that for you."
Oh, right.
They don't not realize how much work it takes to draw on a computer. So people take the arts, like design and the arts, for granted. So I think that's why it hasn't risen in the last 100 years. So that makes a lot of people devastated. And I said, you know what's going to be hilarious is that Fortnite, who made almost $6 billion in revenue last year, say they don't have enough money to go above $3,000, which is ridiculous.
Right. Well, they don't want to set a precedent, because if it's probably illustrators, I assume, is a smaller community doing what you're doing. Yeah. And if they pay you that, then the next person, and that's one of the things that I think we may end up touching on, is like that people need to be more transparent about what they make, so that there's more collective power. But if you were to tell your friends or your coworkers or your, people that do what you made, if you made 5, they'd be like, well, I only made 3. And then suddenly the price goes up for everyone. Yeah.
Before I said no to Epic Games, I researched who else did illustrations with Fortnite. And I emailed a bunch of illustrators asking hey, I saw you did an illustration for Fortnite for the same project. How much did they pay you? They all said $3,000. So I was like, all right, well, we're all being bullshitted. All right, cool. But anyway, I said, that sucks. I have an audience, and I should just, I am okay with calling out a company that has billions and billions of dollars to say that I think it's hilarious that Fortnite Games, who made $6 billion in revenue last year, is offering to pay me $3,000 for an illustration.
And you posted this?
I posted this on my Twitter. And at the time, I still had a large following for an illustrator. So it went viral very fast. And at first, it was a lot of my circles who are also illustrators saying damn, what the hell? Fortnite? Really? I know that I did the right thing. And I'm glad I'm being quote canceled for something that I know is not a reason to be canceled. I'm glad that if this is the hill I'll die on, I'll die on it myself. It's fine.
I have so many thoughts. Because I do feel like this is a really complicated, nuanced situation. But before I get to my thoughts, I actually want to hear the outcome. Were there any negative ramifications that came from doing it, other than you said I used to have followers, so I'm assuming you lost some followers.
I gained a lot.
Oh, you gained a lot. Okay, so then no. All right. So, but were there any negatives that came up for you in particular in this?
Yes, there were. So there were a few professional illustrators that are quite big in the industry who said I wish I got $3,000 from an illustration. So that was bullshit. That was bad. This one artist, she will stay unnamed. She is a legacy illustrator. Future illustration textbooks will talk about her. She's also known for really bad takes. Really bad. But she is still one of the most respected in the industry. But I know that she got an illustration with Fortnite because I emailed her in November asking her, hey, I need to know how much do they pay you? Because for $6 billion revenue from 2021, I don't think this is acceptable.
Right.
And she said, yeah, I'll tell you. We actually got a higher rate, but you can't tell anybody, blah, blah. And I said, sure. Yeah, just I won't tell anybody. And then fast forward to December, she posted a screenshot of this one article that mentioned my trials and tribulations with Fortnite. And the illustrator said, do not ever do this. Don't do what she did.
Like a cautionary tale.
Yeah. And obviously did not read the article because she misgendered me. And she said, she actually emailed me asking for how much they paid me. And I thought the email was very rude. She didn't share the email with her Facebook friends.
Right.
And she said, don't do what she did. You're going to get blacklisted. Your reputation is going to go down the line. Your career is going to be ruined. And I found out that a few of the comments were like, hey, first of all, Deb uses they, them pronouns, and this was in the context of so and so, like, this is why Deb did a good thing. She must have thought that I am just a rando illustrator who has zero mutual connection to her, when in fact, we have a ton of mutual connections.
Right. I'm very torn about the whole conversation just up front, because it's like my wife's a designer and I'm an actor, and I feel like I'm always trying to like find the bar of what I'll be willing to take in an industry that underpays me for my talent. I also come from like a dad who was like, you're not late, you're 15 minutes early. Everything was like, work smarter, not harder. Don't ask your employees to do something you wouldn't do. So like I come from this very like pick yourself up by the bootstraps type, family. I'm in an industry for years where I don't get to say what I do. And so oftentimes I find myself taking things that I wouldn't necessarily want to take, or I don't feel it's enough money because I want to work.
Yeah.
So I want to come at it a little bit from that point of view of like where you are today. Because it sounds to me, this is, by the way, the longest question in the history of man, but it sounds to me like the purpose of your post was because you wanted to expose an industry where the top 1% is making the money and they're underpaying the artists and people are being undervalued for their work. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. You think this is a lot of money. It's really not.
Right. But so then my question is, do you stand by like you said, that's the hill I'm going to die on. I would do that post all over again today?
Oh, I'll do it 50 times over if I had to.
Okay. So then my question to you is, do you think that because you're established, you were able to do that? If you were just out of college, would you do that?
It's a good question. Well, 2 years ago, I didn't really understand the difference between licensing and work for hire as much. And I was also less established. I was getting less work in that industry. So yeah, I probably wouldn't have posted it. I wouldn't have. I'm pretty sure. I would say like between the beginning of 2022 and the end of 2022, like my audience like basically tripled. So I was able to have leverage in this conversation.
Yes. But I think that's a really important distinction. And this is just like I said, I give you like my backstory of where I'm coming from. Like I wouldn't sit down with a young person and be like, and do that. Like, because I really do think there can be real like ramifications to that. I feel like because of your talent and because of the level that you are, you might have been able to sidestep that or just like lane shift. Like I'm over here now. Versus I was going to go over here, but now I'm over here, and you have choice because of talent. But it's like when I talk to young people, like especially like if I talk to young actors, I'm like, if you like, let's just say you don't have the best personality, you better start being really nice to everybody you pass from the second you get off the subway to the second you walk into that audition. Because I held the doorway for somebody once. I held the elevator door so that they could make it. And when I went into the audition, they were behind the table. Yeah. Now, I tanked that audition because it was early in my career and I was not good at auditioning early on, but I had a leg up. That woman was so happy to see me because I had done this nice thing. And I didn't do the nice thing because I did it because it's just like, I mean, who hasn't tried to catch an elevator? But so I'm always telling young people, like, you've got to really be careful. And so you're hitting on like a core value for me. And that's why I want to bring Steph into this part of the conversation too, because I never want it to be like, I think, oh, what you did was wrong. But I'm just like every hair on the back of my neck is like, oh my God, I can't believe like what could have gone wrong.
I think also there's some like little details that, I mean, I just lurked the tweet to make sure I got this right, but you didn't at Fortnite. So
No.
like, yes, you called them out, but you weren't like, I think those are
And you
like,
didn't expect it to go viral.
No, I didn't.
if you're adding Fortnite, you're like, I want you to see this, whereas if you're sort of like just saying something, it's like, who knows if Fortnite will see this or not? That's not the point of this tweet. The point of the tweet is that I'm trying to get something off my chest, or I'm trying to relate to others, or, figure out how I feel about this. Like, whatever the point is, it's there. So I think that's interesting. I think it's also interesting that you like tried to negotiate with them. Because to me, that is something I learned way later on. And a lot of like my regret around doing work for less money was because I lacked the confidence to be able to push back. which
Yeah.
I think comes with an amount of obviously privilege and safety and experience. Like, you have to feel safe enough to push back, and you have to know that that opportunity might get taken away from you if you do. But I think that is so valuable, because there is a scenario, or like 35 potential scenarios, where they could have come back and been like, yeah, you know what, we can't give you IP, but we can give you $1,000 more and you can sell prints or something. You know, like there could have been a conversation. And I think having that conversation is important for you in like practice, and like for me in practice. It's important for the 1% company to be like, these are the things that people want that you can offer that maybe aren't financial if they apparently don't have an extra few $1,000s. But I also think
lawyers are very busy, Steph.
but I think there is, you know, I'm not going to stand up for Fortnite, like they have billions of dollars, whatever. But there is an ignorance around, like, I have no idea how much actors get paid when they book gigs. Like, I have no idea.
Right.
So if I'm going to
there's industry standards that people have been willing to accept.
And this is where
years.
I'm going, is that I think there should be some sort of pay rate guide across the industry. And like, having that doesn't mean that that's what people can pay you, but it's like a nice thing that's outside of yourself that shows the third party your worth and what you deserve, you know? So like, I find it really helpful, because I can be like, hey, thank you so much for thinking of me. I would love to do this work as per industry standards laid out in this pay rate chart. This is my daily rate. This is like average daily rate. I've been working for 17 years. This is whatever this rate is. I haven't been working for 17 years, but you know, like X, Y, and Z means that this is my rate if you're willing to step up to that, blah, blah, blah. And it sort of takes it away from you and puts the blame on them. Yeah. Like, it's not like, which I hate that we have to do. I hate that I can't just be like, hey, I'm really good at my job, pay me more. But to someone who doesn't know me or doesn't know the industry, like sometimes you have to legit be like, hey, this is industry standard and I have this, this, and this. So like, this is your chance to pay me more.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we should point out a couple of great things that you did for younger people who are in the position that you're at. You asked people. You asked a bunch of people in the industry who had done the job to ask what that was, to see if it was standard. You know, I think that's really important. And then you negotiated, like Steph said. So you did do some really, I think, smart things. I think one of my questions is around the permanence of it. I love what you were doing in calling out an industry and calling out the standards being too low. I think my worry, and this is like, you know, I'm your mom now, Deb, and I apologize for that. But I think my worry is like, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, but if it comes down to you and someone of the same talent and they Google you and that lives in permanence forever, are you concerned about that? That they might go, well, this is a person who maybe doesn't care about confidentiality because you did name check the company. So like, does that worry you or concern you, or what are your thoughts on that?
So that's interesting, because to be honest, I didn't think about, like, so I didn't sign an NDA. Right. That's another thing. I think if that lives under my name, I take that with pride. I am more than happy that it lives under my name, because I want to be one of the people who say like, this is bad and you should not settle for less if you are able to. If you are in a situation where you don't need to take that, don't take it.
I mean, you're lucky it went viral, because in that instance, it drove attention to the issue that you wanted to.
Yeah, and it started like a little thing where this illustrator, Daniel Zender, who regularly does illustrations for New York Times, he posted on his Instagram that, I've been getting the same $500 I got paid 10 years ago.
He's 120 years old.
You know, back in my day.
And that's, by the way, another point for young folks. You have to often go in and say, I'd like an increase in my day rate or my fee schedule, because they're going to just keep paying you what they pay you if you don't ask. If you don't say, this is what you hired me to do, I do more, or I've been with you a long time, I deserve this.
I'm not going to name this person, but I do have a few friends who are art directors at the New York Times who also agree that $500, $300 is nothing to be paid. And they actually ask the artists that they're hiring through a different platform, saying like, hey, I want you to email me saying that you want a higher rate so I can forward this to my manager and say that artists are asking for a higher rate. Yeah. So yeah, there are people on the other side who agree that rates are in the basement right now and need to go up a little higher. Forever. Yeah.
What I do is look at every relationship and be like, okay, what can I take out of this that will serve me in the negotiation? Like, if it's not money, how else can I benefit or get what I need out of it? So if that is social capital, name recognition, longer timelines, if I align with the mission of the thing, if it's a cool project that I want to be working on, if it's a way that I could train someone on my team, I look at those things and I'm like, okay, you know, is one of those other buckets worth missing out on $1,000?
I think that's a really good distinction, Steph, because it is true. Like, I'm in more of a need place in terms of my acting career. And it does seem, Deb, like you looked at it and you said, I don't think they can give me more than what I'm already doing on my own. I don't think that this is my worth, and therefore I don't need this. So I think that's a really important distinction for folks when they're in this space of like, do I blow it up or not? Well, might you need them in the future? Might you, like, you know, looking at it from that point of view?
Yeah.
I'm going to edit you for a second. Not need. Do you want them? Do you want them in your future? Because like need, I feel like is like fear-based, whereas like want is like, what do I want in my life and will this like serve me?
If there are people who see that I called out Fortnite and say that they don't want to work with me because of that, then I don't want to work with them either. I don't want to work with the people who are also corporate bootlickers. The second thing is that I think it's very ironic that my career kind of exploded because of not taking the Fortnite job as opposed to taking the Fortnite job. If I took the Fortnite job, my career would probably have stagnated. There are like some global brands who say like, we want to work with you, giving me a very reasonable pay rate. And I asked them, how'd you find me? And they said, oh, through that article about how you turned down Fortnite.
God, that's incredible. That's really incredible.
It's hilarious how the turntables.
Well, and I want to ask you, because I do think that one of the things that we've established is that you are at a place in your career. So what advice would you give to somebody who's just emerging in their career and they come across a situation the way you did?
I would say, I think this applies to like even personal things too. So like if you're breaking up with somebody or if you are really upset with somebody and like your friendship's falling apart or whatever, always post everything, always email everything as if it's going to be screenshotted and posted in public.
Yes.
Without context.
And I'm glad to hear you say that.
If I'm calling out like a big place like this and it goes viral, I have to make sure that, am I doing this gracefully? Am I doing this in a way where it's firm, but like I'm trying to stand up for my industry? So yeah, I would say like personally and professionally, that is always the best way to go.
Yes. We did touch on it at the top a little bit about the cancel culture. And I do think in a lot of ways, what you did, like what I hear in what you did was a really thoughtful approach. Like you didn't, like Steph said, you didn't at them. You know, you did attempt to talk to people. You did attempt to negotiate in good faith. You, when it wasn't meeting your needs, you said no, thank you. But in a world where there's cancel culture, what you did got boiled down to a 20-something sounding ungrateful. And that's why I think that that's the part where I think you and I meet in the middle, and it might be some of the best advice, which is to like follow through all of the things you did, but be aware it may be boiled down, be aware of that, and be aware that some of those people like that designer that you mentioned might be hiring managers. And so it's that you have to walk down this really thoughtful path of when you're willing to kind of put yourself out there, or when what you want to say is more important than what could happen.
Yes.
I was also going to come back to that because Deb, you said that in a different way. You said like when you were giving advice, you were like, write everything. I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing, but like write everything as if like it will be screenshotted and someone will read it without context. And I think the without context is so important today because like Twitter, like everything that we read, we're just like reading like the surface level of it. It's like bloop. And we do get, you know, a lot of our information without context. I think that's a really good piece of advice for how to approach something. And it's something that I know makes me feel safer. I'm like, I want the receipts that I've done what I think is appropriate before I call someone out publicly on the internet. You know, I want to be able to be like, did I negotiate? Do I feel good about this? Did I do this? Like, and feel like I have that, so that then if someone comes at me, it's not even that I can respond to them and be like, no, I did try to negotiate, or I did try to, like, you know, whatever. It's that I can tell myself and like self-soothe and be like, look, I did do that. I did that. And so I'm not in the wrong. Like, this isn't on me. And like the people attacking me are just like not reading far enough into it.
But I do think we have to think about the fact, and this is my fear-based talk always, that we do live in a world where people don't look into the context.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. It's really complex.
It is. But,
I think it is too.
I'm okay with, you know what? If
I love your assuredness. I love it.
I do want to say, I think the root, so much of why people were so upset with me or calling me greedy is that people just don't realize how much $1 billion is. I think that's the big part of it. I think actually to fine tune that, how much profit they will make off of the $3,000 they gave you. Exactly. It's a mix of that, and also forgetting that this is a job. Like, this is my full-time job. Like, I think people see illustration and design and art as a hobby. I think that's why they see it as extra income, because people look at $3,000 as a whole thing and be like, oh my God, that's so much money. But for a job, like for your full-time job,
you would have to do 20 of those just to make 60 grand a year. And not
without
even that,
taxes.
because someone's taking 30% of your cut.
Exactly. I mean, really, it all comes down to capitalism sucking.
It really does. It really does. I'm so thankful that you let us just kind of like pick this apart and bring all our own personal shit to the conversation. And
of course,
can you please tell everyone where they can get your book? Because I think by the time that we've recorded this, your book is out.
Yeah, at this point, you can get In Limbo anywhere. You can get it on Barnes & Noble, any indie bookstore that is local to you, even Amazon if you have to.
Speaking of $1 billion.
Seriously.
And where can folks follow you?
Oh, yeah. On every platform, on Instagram, Twitter, Tumblr, TikTok, whatever. It's at JDebbiel. So it's JDEBBIEL. I made that username because I ran out of ideas in 2012. My website is debleeart.com. And thank you for having me, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You have reached the well-adjusting expert of the day.
Today, we're going to be hearing from Angie Lee. She's the global head of brand and marketing for Samsung Next. And she's one smart cookie.
Everyone wants to know that their work is being valued fairly. So whenever I have a friend who comes to me and asks or suspects that they are being underpaid, I recommend they take 3 steps. First, arm yourself with research. Find out what your role is going to compensate it out in the world, keeping in mind level setting, keeping in mind industry, keeping in mind geography. The second is to evaluate your current position holistically. So yes, there are companies that will pay exorbitantly well, but is that at a cost of a really terrible company culture? And so thinking holistically about the benefits, about the culture, about the quality of the mentorship and the leadership, some of the benefits around work-life balance, working from home, all of these things should weigh into the evaluation of your current role. And once you have a better sense, then the third step is to go speak to your manager or your client to tell them what you've learned and to work with them collaboratively to try to find a solution where both sides can feel that they are getting value out of the relationship. So there are 3 things that I always recommend folks keep in mind when they're negotiating. First, remember there's a distinction between worth, value, and budget. What you believe you are worth may not always match with the value that the company thinks you bring to an organization or the budget they may have for the role. Second, remember that the world is small and always behave and speak as if your words and your actions are going to be public. Sometimes people assume that they're in a closed room negotiation, and so therefore their actions and their behaviors won't have ripple effects outside of that room. Your reputation is the one most important thing that you carry from role to role. So always behave in a way that you would feel proud of when speaking or describing your negotiating process to someone else. The third thing I always tell people to do during a negotiation process is to observe and assess how the other company engages. So while the goal of a negotiation is often to get to the numbers, the reality is that you should be evaluating the company at every step of the way. If throughout the process they are non-responsive, if they are aggressive, if they are acting in a way that you perceive as being disrespectful, then that should be a giant red flag, because how they behave in these most sensitive moments, the moments when they feel they have something potentially to lose, should tell you how they will behave as your manager, as your client. And so the other thing to remember when you go into a negotiation is that ultimately making a decision whether or not to accept a role should depend upon also how they behave and make you feel throughout this process.
Ooh, that was some really fantastic advice. So thank you so much. And I'm going to add on to that. Don't post in anger. Don't react to offers or employers when you're in a charged emotional state. Think it through. Ask folks to read responses or posts over. Wait a day. Your future employed self will thank your current you. Hey folks, it's me again. And guess what? I've got some more bonus content for you. Let's call it Where Are They Now? Here's our guest sharing how they're doing since being on Well Adjusting. Oh, and I'll see you on March 19th for our very first episode of Season 4. Season 4! Can you believe it? Whew, I cannot, but I'm so excited. See you soon.
Yeah, I guess the last time we talked, we were talking about Fortnite, about being paid well, and I think I also mentioned my book coming out, maybe. Book came out in March, and it's been doing really well, surprisingly. It got like one of those silver medals that you see on like the cover of those books, which is super cool. I even got to go speak at my high school again. Turns out my superintendent saw the book and he was like, oh shoot, they did not have a good time. So they actually called me back to talk to like my old teachers to tell them like what went wrong in high school. And yeah, reception was really nice and it felt really good. So the book is doing well, I'm doing well. I have COVID, but looks like that's going away soon. But yeah, excited to see what 2024 has in store for everybody else.
Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original series. It's exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Our producer and editor is Maria Passingham, and our production manager is Kathleen Speckert. Thank you to the entire Edit Audio team and to you for listening. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it. Hi, folks. All right, so season 3 of Well Adjusting, it's over. Cue the tears. But here's the good news. We are currently working very hard on season 4 right now. And you know what that means. We want to hear from you. Actually, we want to hear from you in a couple of ways, but the first way is we are looking for guests. So if you are currently working through something and you want an outside perspective, I say get in touch. I mean, maybe you're going through a breakup. Maybe you want advice on saving cash or investments. And you know I love to talk about finances. It could be that you're going to like a big fancy work conference and you're scared that no one's going to talk to you and you're going to trip and you're going to fall. And that's all that anybody's going to remember. Because I do know that that is often my fear. So whatever is keeping you up at night, we want to hear about it. And we want to help. So all you have to do is hit us up over email. It's hello@editaud.io. Or you can get me at Real Rob Hops on the socials. All right, the second way we want to get in touch with you is, okay, we've been happily over here in our little Well Adjusting corner making 3 seasons of the show, and we're asking ourselves and our team, like, how can we make this podcast even better? But we realized we should ask the people who are actually spending time with us in their ears. Yeah, no, I know that's weird. Okay, anyway, nobody knows the show better than you, and we know you have thoughts. So we're going to run a little listener survey, and we want to know what you love about the show and what you think could be improved. So if you're always like, I wish Robin would stop talking about her baths, or I want to hear more about those experts at the end, now is your time. So if you're listening to this as a podcast, check the show notes. Now, if you're seeing this on the socials, there'll be a link in bio, and you can just fill out our super short survey. Like, it'll literally take you 3 minutes, okay? And we will forever love you. And I mean, we will love you anyway, but, we could use the help. So, okay, I'm rambling. It's what I do. We know this. That's it from me. All the links, all the junk in the show notes if you're listening, or check my socials, and we will see you for season 4, or maybe before. I don't know. Keep looking for us.